From donations to President Trump's campaign or inaugural funds to Mar-a-Lago visits, Silicon Valley tech giants tried to win Trump's favor, and now their wallets are taking a hit from his policies.
The companies founded or run by Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos have collectively lost nearly $1.8 trillion in value since the start of the year. CNN business writer Claire Duffy is with us now on this story. That's a lot of money, Claire.
It is a lot of money, and it's interesting, right, because these five leaders in particular, they sat front and center at the inauguration. As Boris said, they donated to Trump's inaugural fund or his campaign, either personally or through their companies, all presumably because they were hoping for some policies that would benefit their business's bottom line. But that is not what we have seen, at least in these first 3 months of Trump's presidency. Instead, these companies collectively have lost, even after the market rally yesterday. In the case of Meta, tens of billions of dollars in market value. In the case of the other companies, hundreds of billions of dollars in market value since the start of this year. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the uncertainty around this tariff policy. And the decline in share price and market value of these companies is also taking a hit to these leaders' personal wealth, and none more so than Elon Musk. He donated at least $290 million to Trump's campaign. He has now lost at least $107 billion in net worth since the start of this year. So it is really striking that these leaders who have supported Trump are now seeing a hit to both their company's valuation and their personal wealth. And we are starting to hear some of these companies speak up, in particular about the tariff policy. Elon Musk warning that it could have a significant impact on Tesla. And just this morning, Amazon's CEO warned that consumers could see prices go up because of these tariff policies if they remain in place. So we are starting to hear from them, but not all of them, about their concerns around this policy.
All right, Claire, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Tech giants, they're not the only ones suffering from President Trump's tariff policies. Small businesses are also feeling the heat. The 90-day pause on all reciprocal tariffs for countries except for China is a much-needed break for many companies to assess what they need to do to survive. With us now is Kason Crane, the founder of Explorer Cold Brew. Kason, thank you so much for being with us. And just to let our viewers know, you just launched Explorer Cold Brew at Whole Foods nationwide. That's a really big milestone for you. Tell us how these tariffs are affecting you now that there is a pause, but there's still a 145% cumulative tariff on China.
Thanks, Brianna. Yeah, I mean, look, for a small business like mine, launching in Whole Foods nationwide is like the highest of highs. It's a make or break opportunity. And to have just weeks later this news around tariffs and immediately hearing from suppliers about how this is going to impact our prices, it goes from a make to a break for a business like mine. So it's been quite a tumultuous month. And even with the 90-day pause, I mean, the reciprocal tariffs are paused, but for a small business, it's one thing for big businesses, the big businesses that were mentioned, Apple and the others, that they're complaining. If they're complaining, it's 100 times worse for small businesses. We can't fly in 6 plane loads of iPhones to beat the tariffs. We can't actually even raise prices because, we're already, think about the small businesses you support, it's all subscale production. So we're already priced on the high end of the set. So it's a very, very challenging situation for us.
Okay, so explain this to us, because on the coffee side of things, it sounds like things could have been a lot worse if there hadn't been this pause, right? But I wonder if still with that, even not quite a day of the reciprocal tariffs being in effect, how that impacted you. But also, you get your glass bottles from China. So what are you doing with that?
Yeah. Well, so on the coffee front, first of all, coffee has been exempt from tariffs since the 1800s. So even a 10% tariff is a new development for us. And it's definitely better than, for example, Vietnam is the second largest producer of coffee in the world. They were facing, I think, 46% tariffs. So for my peers in the industry who runs, some amazing Vietnamese coffee brands, I'm glad for them that that's been held back. But across the board, whether it's glass bottles or coffee, the 90-day period is, it's a good initial step, I guess, but it doesn't really give enough time for small businesses to make the adjustments we need. Ultimately, China is not the only place to make glass bottles or to buy glass bottles. but I don't have the, the widespread capabilities in the supply chain to immediately move my procurement of those products to a different place. Big businesses might have that. Big businesses have the resources and access to capital to wait it out, to wait for American manufacturing to come back. But a small business like mine will be out of business before the end of the year if things continue on this path.
So one of your company's investors is Bill Ackman, who was describing Trump's tariff approach as sort of like a nuclear winter. I think I may be paraphrasing, but I don't think by much. And he's a Trump supporter who has somewhat broken with the president, certainly on this issue of tariffs. What have your conversations been like with investors like Ackman?
Well, I'm very grateful to have Bill and a wonderful group of supportive investors beyond Bill, in part because too often small businesses like mine don't get this opportunity to speak up and be heard. And ultimately, I think we are actually the ones who are most hurt. There are millions of small businesses across the United States. 99% of businesses in the US are small businesses. So I'm very grateful to Bill for shining a spotlight on our story, and we're just one of many. I think the conversations, they reflect, this isn't about politics, really. The administration is pursuing broad trade goals that, I'm not a trade policy expert, but I would also say that every American can do something. It's a tough economic climate. Inflation has been a problem, but please go buy from American small businesses. That's something that everyone can do, whether it's buying Explore Cold Brew and Whole Foods or whatever your favorite local small business is. Support them, because really everyone is struggling right now.
Yeah, and we're learning how much American small businesses are, in a way, they're global businesses. Kaysen, sorry that we are talking under these circumstances, but I will say it's been really interesting to speak with you and so many entrepreneurs about what you're doing. So thank you so much for being with us.
The former Treasury Secretary told you that Americans should expect to pay more, even with this pause on tariffs.
Yeah, Secretary Yellen did not hold back Boris and Brianna. This was her first television interview since leaving office, and she said while it was reassuring to see that the president put a 90-day pause on this reciprocal tariffs, she said that even with the tariffs in place, the 10% tariff and obviously the 145% tariff on China alone, the cost to the average American household could be around $4,000. I also went on to ask her about, and I'm not sure if you guys have picked up on this, it's almost daily now that the Trump administration, the president himself, have been criticizing and trashing the economy that they inherited from President Biden. She went on to defend that economy, quoting The Economist magazine, which described the U.S. economy at the time as the envy of the world. Here's what else she told me.
We had a very well-functioning economy, and President Trump has taken a wrecking ball to it.
You're now back to being a professor. I have to ask you, how would you grade how the Trump administration has handled the economy thus far?
I'm afraid I could not give it a passing grade. I'm sorry. I think policy has been, this is the worst self-inflicted wound that I have ever seen an administration impose on a well-functioning economy.
The likelihood of a recession due to President Trump's economic policies, in your view?
Well, it's clearly risen. And in addition to the tariffs and the negative likely impact on consumer spending, we have a huge uncertainty shock. No one knows where any of this is going. We're now in a huge war with China, and the tariffs that have been imposed on China are what I would call prohibitive. They're going to result in massive impacts on the United States and the global economy.
Secretary Yellen also noted that the interest rates on the Treasury bonds, which went up, and typically in situations and crises like these go down, is what she believes ultimately led to the president to put this 90-day pause on, that he was spooked by what he saw happening in the bond market. And she is still concerned about the longer-term impact this could have on investor confidence here in the United States, which has historically been a safe haven during times of uncertainty. And now you have a situation where it's the United States itself creating this global uncertainty. Boris and Brianna.